Welcome to Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. Friday, December 10th. It's a special Friday edition this week because of the fact that I wanted to see if we would have CFL Grey Cup player props maybe posted by the time of this show. And we do have them at a couple of books. So that's the good thing about this show is when we talk CFL Grey Cup, we will talk player props as well. And of course, I can't be more excited than I am right now. And for this weekend coming up, the Grey Cup game is in my hometown of Hamilton, and my hometown team, the Ticats, a team that I have cheered for my entire life. I've gone to hundreds of Ticat games in my lifetime. I've been a season ticket holder of the Ticats for almost 10 years now. And finally, we get to not only host a Grey Cup for the first time in 25 years, but we get to see the Ticats in the Grey Cup with a chance to bring the CFL Grey Cup championship home to the Hammer. Looking forward to it. Very excited. We will break it down. Winnipeg and Hamilton, the Grey Cup game. But unlike in the past, we are going to save that till the end of the show. Usually we do the CFL first whenever we begin the Ian Cameron Football Frenzy show, but we're going to save the Grey Cup till the end because it's the big game, to me at least, this weekend in professional football, with all due respect to the NFL. But we will start NFL first. NFL Week 14, Sunday and Monday slate with some interesting games. We've got a great one on Monday night to wrap up the week, the Rams and the Cardinals. But we'll start with Sunday's NFL card, and we begin with the Las Vegas Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City, 9.5-point home favorites, 48.5 the total in this game. We're going to find out if Kansas City, are they ready to be laying big points again? They are certainly playing their best football right now. Going into December, now that we are into December, they are playing their best football. There's no denying that whatsoever. The Chiefs, really, they've done it at both ends of the field. The offense has played well with Patrick Mahomes, no question about that. But it's really been the defense that's gotten it done lately for the Kansas City Chiefs. They have given up 14 points or less to each of their last four opponents: the Packers, the Raiders, the Cowboys, and the Broncos. And when you look at why has that defense improved, well, they got a lot healthier. That's a good place to start. Chris Jones, a guy that they missed badly along the defensive line, one of their best pass rushers certainly on this Kansas City Chiefs team, recently came back. And it seems like the uptick in their defensive performance coincided with him being back on the field. They got their secondary mostly as healthy as they've been in a long time as well. And you've seen the improvements that have resulted of that for the Kansas City Chiefs on defense. The Raiders, they have certainly gone downhill a little bit, 1-4 straight up in ATS in their last 5 games. Losses to the Giants, the Bengals, the Chiefs, of course, in Las Vegas on that Sunday night last month. They did beat Dallas in overtime, but ended up losing 17-15 to the Washington football team in their last game. A winnable game, but just they could not get much going offensively in that game. We'll see how they fare here. The one thing about the Raiders is with their record right now, 6-6, I don't expect them to pack it in by any stretch of the imagination here. There's still belief that they could make a wild card spot. They're still only one game out of being in an AFC wildcard spot. So I expect there to be effort here, but the problem for the Raiders here is the injury situation. They're dealing with a couple key injuries on defense right now, including defensive end Carl Nassib, Kwiatkowski at linebacker. Of course, Gerald McCoy's been out for a long period of time. And on the offensive side of the football, Darren Waller is the big one. He's questionable with a knee injury, and we know how vital he is really to this Las Vegas Raiders offense. So some injury concerns. I still lean to Las Vegas a little bit. It's a division revenge game for them. They got absolutely whipped by Kansas City, 41-14 at home in their last game. We are seeing signs of the Chiefs winning by margin. That's definitely something that concerns you in the back of your mind here. But you're getting almost 10 points here with the Raiders in a game that, they need every game they can down the stretch. And prior to the loss to Kansas City earlier this season, let's not forget last year they did play the Kansas City Chiefs tough. I still lean Raiders. I don't love it because if Darren Waller doesn't play, I think that's a huge problem for the Las Vegas Raiders. But you can't deny they're 5-1 ATS. Their last 6 as a road underdog. This has been a good point spread roll for Las Vegas in recent games. So I lean Raiders here at 9.5, 10 in this game. I'll have maybe a small bet on it. Nothing significant, but definitely lean road underdog Raiders here. Even with Kansas City playing better, they're now being asked to lay a big number again for the first time in a little bit. And we'll see if they're capable of being able to step up and cover numbers like this. Let's not forget, last time they were double-digit favorites was against the New York Giants, and they only won that game by 3. So double-digit shock for Kansas City. We'll see if they're up for it, but I lean Raiders in that game. New Orleans Saints, New York Jets. We've got the Saints 5.5-point road favorites, 43 the total in this game. It's Saints or pass for me, and it's great news for them that Alvin Kamara is going to be back on the field. Obviously, in terms of their offense, he's the most important piece on that side of the football that they have. Taysom Hill struggled a lot last week. He's dealing with a right middle finger injury that he said hampered him a little bit. We'll see if he can throw the ball a little bit better this time around. But just having Kamara back on the field is just massive here for the New Orleans Saints. The Jets with a 33-18 loss last week to the Eagles. Other than a win against the Houston Texans, which isn't saying much, this team's definitely had trouble with winning ball games. And when you look at the Jets and the margin of defeat for them in their losses this year, 15-point loss to Philly, 7-point loss to Miami, 28-point loss to Buffalo, 15-point loss to Indy, 41-point loss at New England, 7-point loss to Atlanta, 26-point loss to Denver. When they lose games, they lose them, they're not close. When the Jets lose, they're often getting defeated by a significant margin here. So I would only look to New Orleans here, minus 5.5. They're 5-7. The playoffs are really unlikely, I guess you could say, at this point for the Saints. But I think with Alvin Kamara back on the field, there's a good chance both starting tackles, they've been banged up for a while, that they finally could both return. I'm talking about the left tackle, Ron Armstead, and the right tackle, Ryan Ramczyk. It's been a while since the New Orleans Saints have had both of these guys on the field healthy at the same time. But it looks like that could be the case here for New Orleans, that they might have both starting tackles back in this game. We'll see. It's not confirmed yet. We'll have to see closer to kickoff. But yeah, for me, it would be no part of the Jets here in this game. I'd either lay the 5.5 with New Orleans or pass, and I still might in this game. San Francisco and Cincinnati. We've got the 49ers, 1.5, 2-point road favorites, 48.5, 49 the total in this game. I would lean over the total. I think you'll see offenses have a good show of it here in this matchup. Cincinnati certainly defensively had their struggles against the Chargers last week, 41-22. Really a bad offensive showing for Cincinnati, who have suddenly gone 5-1 to the over in their last 6 games. So they have definitely been trending over. You could say the same about San Francisco, 5-2 to the over in their last 7 games. They gave up 30 last week to Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. Before that, they gave up 26 to Minnesota. It's been a struggle for this team at the defensive on the defensive side of the football the last 2 weeks. And for Joe Burrow and the Bengals, I'd expect their offense to really be looking to bounce back after a kind of a subpar performance last week against the LA Chargers, which I was definitely worried about the spot a little bit last week for the Bengals when you look at the fact that they had a couple of really big wins, Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, off their bye week, then a little bit of a flat spot last week. I think their offense will be better here. Now, Joe Burrow does have a dislocated pinky finger, but I think he's going to try to play through that going into this game. They do have a couple question marks in terms of the skill positions. That's the one thing that would worry me here. T. Higgins at wide receiver, ankle injury. Joe Mixon at running back, non-COVID illness. So will they be available on Sunday? If they are, I'd like over the total. If they are available as well, I might look Cincinnati. But right now, they're just lean Cincinnati as a slight home underdog and over the total for me. We're going to wait to see if we make sure Burrow plays. We see if Higgins and Mixon are going to be good to go for Cincinnati as well. If they are all healthy and on the field Sunday, then I probably will get to the betting window here, backing Cincinnati, bounce back spot, and also maybe look over the total. Weather doesn't look like it's going to be too bad this weekend in Cincy between these two teams. All right, Jacksonville and Tennessee. We've got the Titans, 8.5, 9.5-point home favorites in that range, 43.5 the total in this game. I don't think I could endorse Jacksonville by default. I would probably only look toward Tennessee. But am I rushing to lay, big points here with Tennessee? I'm not sure. They're off a bye week. That's the good news. And boy, they needed the bye week. 3 straight 0-3 ATS going into the bye week. 2 straight losses to Houston and New England. The New England loss, they were totally blown out in that game, 36-13. So they need the bye week in the worst way. I would lean to lay in the points. I really would. I mean, obviously, this offense has not been the same, predictably, I should say, not been the same without Derrick Henry. We kind of figured that would be the case. But, they've had a lot of key injuries on both sides of the football. Jeremy McNichols, the backup running back, concussion. He may not go in this game. They've had obviously A.J. Brown and Julio Jones banged up lately for the Tennessee Titans as well. Jones looks like he might play with the hamstring injury. We'll see. The bye week hopefully helps him in that regard. I could only back Tennessee. Look, the Jacksonville Jaguars are just not playing great football at all. 4 straight losses since, and I still can't believe they beat Buffalo. And it looks even worse when you look back at it. But the last 5 losses for Jacksonville, by 24 to Seattle, by 6 to Indy, by 20 to San Francisco, by 7 to Atlanta, and then by 30 last week, they get absolutely shellacked by the LA Rams. It was definitely a good get-right spot for the Rams last week against the Jags, and they took advantage of it. This offense is just stuck in mud right now. I mean, we just have not seen much progression and improvement from Trevor Lawrence, and I know this team has issues. The skill position talent around him is not great on this team. The offensive line's got problems. I understand all that, but, at some point, you'd like to see Trevor Lawrence take a step forward and improve at the quarterback spot. We're just not seeing that week to week right now for Jacksonville. So a rested Jacksonville team off 2 straight losses and off a bye week. And look, they can't take anything for granted here, the Titans either, because, with their recent struggles and with the Colts starting to come on, it's not a sure thing they win the AFC South anymore, with Indianapolis closing ground on Tennessee. So this becomes a big game for them. I would only lay the points with Tennessee, but again, check the injury report. Let's make sure the receiving core is intact before getting to the betting window here with this one. But I would only look to lay the points. Baltimore, Cleveland. Cleveland, 2.5, 3-point home favorites, 43 the total in this one. I like the Browns here. I like, and that's, it's kind of a leap of faith. I get it. This team's been very, very disappointing at times this year. It's only a 500 team. They've lost 2 of their last 3. They had a bye week following a Sunday Night Football loss in Baltimore, 16-10. If they had gotten anything from the offense, they could have won that game. The question now is going to be, how's the health of Baker Mayfield? He's been dealing with a injury to his left shoulder, his non-throwing shoulder, but he's going to play through it. They say he feels better. We'll see if that translates into a better performance from him on the field. You look at the offensive line. They have had their share of injury problems this year, but Jack Conklin's not coming back anytime soon. But the good news is it looks like J.C. Treader, the center, and Jedrick Wills, the left tackle, should be expected to play here for Cleveland. That would be a good thing for them, obviously, because their O-line is one of many position groups on this team that have had injuries. I really distrust Baltimore. We saw them lose, last week to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 20-19. The offense is really not exactly lighting it up. I mean, that's 4 straight weeks of sub 20 points for this Baltimore Ravens team. Lamar Jackson's been erratic throwing the football, more bad than good, I think, with his accuracy in the passing game. The run game has obviously been held in check a little bit more the last few weeks. Last week they didn't really get a lot from Devontae Freeman and Latavius Murray. It's obviously a team that's just had an incredible amount of bad injury luck with their running back group, but it continues here for Baltimore going into this game. With all the injuries they've suffered, they've basically been calling up running backs off the street, signing them in emergency situations throughout the year. So there are issues with Baltimore's offense here. Cleveland off the bye week, it's certainly a favorable spot for them. Baltimore off a huge division game against Pittsburgh. You would think that's a scheduling advantage for Cleveland, but can Cleveland actually step to the plate and get a much-needed win? Here's the question. But I do think it sets up well. It's hard to trust Cleveland, but I'm going to at least attempt to try to trust them here. I would look Cleveland here, -2.5, -3. I like the over as well, 43. It's a low number. I expect the Browns offense to be helped out by the bye week, and I expect them to have a better game. Baltimore, I think, after last week, I don't think they were impressed with their defensive or their offensive performance, but I think you'll see a better offensive showing from them. And what I often like is, look, a couple weeks ago they played in Baltimore. The weather wasn't great, and it was a low-scoring game. The total was 47 in that game. And it obviously stayed well under. And now you're seeing a 4-point adjustment in this total to 43 now for this game. So I think there's value over the total, and I think you'll see a better performance from both offenses. So I like the Browns, and I like the over there, Ravens and Browns on Sunday. Atlanta, Carolina. We've got Carolina 2.5-point home favorites, 41.5 the total in this one. Probably not going to bet it, but I'm certainly not inclined to lay points with Cam Newton in Carolina. Not with what I've seen from Cam at the quarterback position here in recent games. It's been a struggle, no doubt about that, for him, really since he had one really good drive early in his first start with Carolina. He really hasn't lit it up since then, and that's definitely something that would concern you going into this game. The Atlanta Falcons, I thought for the most part, actually, not a bad effort last week against Tampa Bay. They moved the ball at times. Unfortunately, their defense had trouble shutting down Tom Brady and the Bucks, but a lot of teams are going to have difficulty with that. It's not easy to trust them either. Atlanta, they're 1-3 in their last 4 games. It's an important game, really, though, for both teams. 5-7, they're just trying to hang on. It feels like the loser of this game probably is eliminated from the playoffs, but you look at this Carolina offense the last 2 weeks, it's been disappointing, and really the defense, too. They gave up 27 to Washington, 33 to Miami. Kind of disappointing on the defensive side of the football right now for this Panthers team as well. So I guess if I had to, I'd lean Atlanta, but I'm probably going to just totally stay off this game entirely. Two very, very erratic football teams. Dallas and Washington. We've got Dallas 4.5-point road favorites, 48 the total in this game. I like the football team here, Washington. I like the way they're trending. I like the way Taylor Heineke's played at quarterback for Washington the last few weeks. He's made good plays. I think his passing ability's gotten a bit better. And even against Seattle, the Monday night game recently, where, he didn't have his best game, he got the drives and he put Washington in position to score points when they needed to in that game in the 17-15 win. And last week, the same thing. When they needed a drive, when they needed points, they got it. And look, the Washington defense, all season, we were wondering what's happened to this defense. Why are they struggling so much? We expected a lot from Washington defensively. Well, we're starting to finally see that defense step up, play better, stop the run better, get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And what's kind of eerie is that it seems like they played their best defense of the football ever since Chase Young got injured. I don't know if that's coincidence or what, but 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread for Washington in their last 4 games. They've given up 21 or less in all 4 games. They're getting pressure. They're getting off the field on third down. It's been a very good bend but don't break defense. Yeah, they've given up some yards, but their red zone defense has been awesome during this 4-game stretch. And it seems like you're right. Chase Young gets hurt, and all of a sudden things are a little bit better here for the defense. But no, it's not just him, though. They've had a couple of key guys out for a while. Montez Sweat's been out for a while. Davis at linebacker has been out for a while. Jonathan Allen, may not play here with a groin injury. So still to see this game or this team, play this well defensively with some of the personnel that's out for them, especially along the defensive front, it's been impressive. Dallas, you look at them, they've kind of been up and down the last 5 games, just 2-3, straight up in ATS. The wins were Atlanta 43-3 in a blowout spot after they lost to Denver. And then the New Orleans Saints 27-17, which isn't saying much last week, that victory. Taysom Hill was brutal. 4 interceptions. 4 interceptions, no offense, no Alvin Kamara. And yet Dallas still only wins that game by 10. That probably should have been a game that they won going away and probably obliterated New Orleans. But they only won by 10 in that game. So that's some cause for concern for me. They're laying points on the road. We're kind of seeing Dallas's defense a little bit come back to the mean a little bit, regress a little bit. I know they had played better certainly than they did last year, although that wasn't difficult to accomplish because it was just an all-time bad defense last year for Dallas. But, that defense hasn't been quite as good in recent weeks. I look to the home underdog here. I think Washington is live in this game. I like the way they're playing right now. They certainly are coming into this game knowing that if we have any chance of tracking down Dallas for first in the NFC East, we're 2 games behind them right now. We have to win this game. So I think Washington plus the points is the way I would go here in this NFC East division battle. All right, Seattle, Houston. We've got Seattle, 8.5-point road favorites, 40.5, the total in this one. I'm on Seattle a little bit here, -8.5, but I'm also on Seattle in a couple of teasers down to -2.5 on a 6-point teaser. Look, I give Seattle credit. We thought maybe they were down and out, and I think they still are. They're not making the playoffs. They're 4-8, but they showed some want to last week against San Francisco, playing spoiler, trying to hurt the 49ers' playoff chances. And after losing 3 in a row the way they did, and the offense bogging down significantly and not really, producing all that much, it was a big bounce back game last week against the 49ers for Russell Wilson and the Seattle offense. It was definitely one of the better games that they've had in recent weeks, and they end up getting the 30-23 win. Look, there's bad rumblings coming out of Houston now. Tyrod Taylor's going to be sit down, and they're going to go with Davis Mills, who's been nothing short of brutal this year for Houston. There's already reports surfacing that David Culley is going to be one and done as head coach of this team. And when the players start, hearing that kind of stuff, where's the incentive to really go out there, play, your best football for just a horrible football team, 2-10. Now you're hearing your coach might be out the door. Where's the incentive for Houston to really, show up on a week in, week out basis? And showing up is not something they did last week against the Colts. That was a complete and utter embarrassment. They get outgained by almost 250 total yards. They lose 31-0 to the Indianapolis Colts. The offense is dormant. They lose to the lowly Jets before that. I'm still wondering how they beat Tennessee. Now, I know Tennessee was in a brutal spot that week, but, well, I know how they won that game. It was like 5 turnovers in that game for Tennessee. That's the only reason they won that game. So the losses, by 31, by 7, by 8, by 16, by 26, by 28, by 40, by 15. They were close against the Patriots. Seattle probably should win this game, probably by margin. I like the 8.5 a little bit, -8.5, but I like the teaser even more because I definitely think there's very little chance Seattle loses this game, and you can get Seattle on a 6-point teaser down to -2.5. I think that's pretty good value there. Detroit and Denver. Denver 10-point home favorites, 42 the total. I am very torn here. Detroit's been a point spread machine since the bye week. They've been on this quest to finally win a football game and not end up winless this season. Well, they finally won that first game last week against Minnesota. Now, do they keep up the great effort and their ability to just hang in games, which they have been doing lately, Detroit, in spite of the fact that Jared Goff in the passing game's been up and down, in spite of the fact that the, DeAndre Swift, has been banged up the last couple of weeks with a shoulder injury, missed last week, not going to play. But still, this Detroit team, the effort's been there. 4-0 ATS, their last 4 games since the bye, tying Pittsburgh, losing by 3 at Cleveland, losing by 2 on Thanksgiving against Chicago, and then the win against Minnesota for their first win of the year last week. Now you're asking Denver to lay 10 here against a Detroit team that's been in every game for the last 4 weeks since their bye week. It's difficult to take Denver here. However, my reluctance with taking Detroit is now that they got that first win under their belt, is there, just a crash back down to earth? Because I've seen this with bad teams when they're having a really wretched season. They want to get that first win. And then when they get that first win, there's not that same urgency the very next week. And I'm concerned about that kind of thought process creeping into the minds of the Detroit Lions here after that first win last week. Whereas for Denver, this game is significant. They're 6-6, they're battling for the playoffs. They need wins down the stretch, and they absolutely have to take care of business, must take care of business in a game like this if the Denver Broncos are going to hope to make the playoffs. So I worry that it's full bore focus for Denver, and if it is, I don't know if Detroit's moving the ball with no DeAndre Swift, with a limited passing game, with a horrible receiving core on the road in a tough environment, a Denver team that's looking to make amends for a mistake turnover-filled game against Kansas City last week on Sunday Night Football and a 22-9 loss. You know what I mean? I mean, I know Detroit's been close in every game lately, and it feels like I should be on Detroit again, and I've been backing them a little bit lately, but I just don't know if I trust them in this particular spot off their first win of the year and a Denver team that is probably not going to look past them given how badly they need wins here down the stretch. So, yeah, the lean is Detroit, but I don't know if I'm anxious to back them here in this situation. All right, Giants and Chargers. Chargers, 10-point home favorites, 43 the total in this game. I could only take New York here at plus 10. We know the Giants have been good road underdogs for years, and we have seen it play out that way. They've got their issues, certainly. They beat Philly a couple weeks ago, but they got blown out by Tampa, blown out by Miami. And in fact, I was saying how good long-term they've been as road underdogs, yet the last two times they've been road dogs, 0-2 straight up in ATS against Tampa and Miami. And look, they're playing a very capable Chargers team coming off a very impressive performance both sides of the ball. The defense was good, the best they've been in a while, because the Chargers have had defensive issues, particularly stopping the run. That's been an issue for them. But their offense, Justin Herbert, huge bounce back game from him. He didn't play well in the loss to Denver, but he played a lot better against Cincinnati last week, leading that Chargers offense. And when you look at it for the Giants, Saquon Barkley, what else is new? Ankle injuries still bothering him. Questionable for this game. If he does play, though, there's your pathway to the Giants maybe covering this number. Maybe him being able to have success against what's still a very suspect Chargers run defense. It's been bad all year. Do we trust them here? And look at it's the Chargers laying 10. And you look at the Chargers as favorites, as bigger favorites. 6-point favorite against Pittsburgh. They win by 4. 3.5-point favorites against New England. They lose that game outright. I mean, you go down and look at their schedule, and laying bigger points with the Chargers has not been a good endeavor so far this season. And this is by far, just laying points in general in Chargers games is usually not a wise idea. But you look at it, it's truly uncanny here what we've seen. In all the majority of the Chargers games, the underdog cashes, whether it's the Chargers or whether it's the opponent. I would only look Giants here. The Chargers were great last week, but what I also don't like about the Chargers win last week is they kind of let Cincy back into the game. It got to 31, I believe, 22 at one point in that game. It got really, really close. It was one of those situations where the Chargers got up to such a big 24-22, I beg your pardon. Yes, it was a 2-point game heading into the fourth quarter. The Chargers were in complete control. They were up 24-0 at one point. Bengals get 22 unanswered points. And then it took the Chargers, refocusing again in the fourth quarter to pull away. So it's just not a team I trust as 10-point favorites. Really, it's that simple when it comes to the Chargers in this game. I would only back the Giants in this game as double-digit road underdogs. Buffalo, Tampa Bay, we've got the Bucks, 3.5-point home favorites, 53.5 the total. Kind of a bet on spot, I think, for both. Like, Tampa Bay is terrific at home. I have a very, very hard time betting against Tampa at home. They've played their best football at Raymond James Stadium all season long, 5-0 straight up, 4-1 against the spread at home. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers have played outstanding football on their best football, especially on offense at home. They've won 3 in a row, covered 3 in a row. It looks like, typical Tom Brady team. Even when he was at New England with Hoodie all those years, they peaked going into December. That's when it seemed like they revved it up and they started to play their best football. And look at Tampa Bay last year, same thing. Once the calendar turned to December, that team started playing their best football. So I'm not in a rush to bet against Tampa Bay here as just 3.5-point home favorites, given their success straight up in ATS at home. Bills are on a short week off Monday Night Football. However, I do expect the Bills to bring it here. I mean, obviously, they're kind of ashamed, to be honest with you, that New England ran the football pretty much on every play, and they still had trouble stopping it in that very much wind and weather influenced game against the Patriots on Monday night, with the Bills losing 14-10. I think you're going to see them really try to step up here in this one. I like the over here more than either side. I don't really want to fade the Bills in this spot. I certainly am not rushing to bet against Tampa either. I like points in this game. You look at the Bills' recent results, 14-10 in a quagmire weather-wise on Monday night, so it stayed under. They played New Orleans. That game stayed under. Well, New Orleans' offense was broken when they played the Saints. Camaro's out. The offensive line was banged up. They're down to Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian at quarterback. No wonder that game stayed under the total. But you look at the Bills when they've played good teams and good offenses this year. The game against Indy, game goes over the total. The game against Tennessee, the game goes over the total. The game against Kansas City, the game goes over the total. When the Bills play better teams, better offenses, the games become more higher scoring. Bills, by the way, are 6-0 to the over in their last 6 games as an underdog. So when they're not expected to win, it seems like you get, the Bills struggling a bit more defensively against those teams. And I think you're going to see more of that here. And look, Tampa Bay's defense is still not great, in my opinion, and they're still very much a beleaguered and injury-riddled defense in the secondary. Still cluster injuries there. Is Vita Vea on the defensive line going to play in this game? That's a concern. William Golston, questionable with a knee injury. Jason Pierre-Paul's on the injury report. Jamel Dean looks like he might play, but he's been injured the last few weeks. Again, still more injuries in that secondary for the Bucs. So I think there's going to be opportunities for Josh Allen and what's still a more pass-heavy offense for the Bills. They definitely prefer to throw it than run it, for them to be able to make some plays in this game. So yeah, the total's high. It's in the 53 range, but it's high for a reason. I think we get high 50s here. Like 31-28 is definitely a final score I could envision happening in this game. So I like the over here, Bills and Buccaneers on Sunday afternoon. All right, Sunday night football, Chicago, Green Bay. Green Bay 12.5-point home favorites, 43 the total in this game. I'm on Green, and I don't normally lay double digits. I'm going to do that here in this game, though, with Green Bay. In fact, I might go a split here with Green Bay first half and Green Bay full game. First half spread on Green Bay is -7. Full game is -12.5. I think they win by margin here. I mean, Chicago, just another mistake-filled game against Arizona. Turnovers by Andy Dalton. Terrible defense. They could not stop Kyler Murray and the Cardinals in that game. And that's going to be the issue for Chicago's defense here. Baltimore's offense, when they played them, they didn't have Lamar Jackson that day. They played a bad Detroit offense. So some of these recent defensive performances from Chicago are skewed. You got to throw, it's bad data points to use. A bad Detroit offense. Baltimore had no Lamar Jackson that day. Those were two good Chicago recent defensive performances that had more to do with the situation with the opponent than with their own defensive ability, in my opinion. I think they're going to struggle to stop Aaron Rodgers and the Packers here off a bye week. Extra time to prepare, get everybody healthy. Aaron Rodgers, the toe injury, should be feeling as good as it has in weeks with the extra time off to rest, heal up. Unfortunately, there is going to be no Randall Cobb for this game. He's going to be out with an abdominal injury, but still, you're going to have you're still going to have Devontae Adams here for this team. You've still got plenty of options to throw the ball to. And still, I think you're still going to be able to see Aaron Rodgers probably have a good day picking apart this Chicago defense. That again, when Chicago's played good offenses, they've struggled for the most part this year. You look at Green Bay; they've been outstanding on their home field. The Bears are only 1-4 ATS their last 5 meetings in Green Bay. You look at recent head-to-head meetings, all double-digit wins in the last 3 head-to-head meetings for the Packers over the Bears. And by the way, the Bears at Lambeau Field this year, perfect. 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread this year for the Green Bay Packers at home. Win and cover against the Rams at home, win and cover against the Seahawks at home, win and cover against Washington at home, win and cover against Pittsburgh at home. This team definitely has played some very good football, their best here on their home field. And of course, Detroit, their first home game, they won and covered there as well. So perfection across the board for Green Bay this year at Lambeau Field. I think it continues here. I like Green Bay -7 first half, Green Bay -12.5 in the full game as well. All right, Monday Night Football, LA Rams, Arizona Cardinals. Arizona 2.5-point home favorites, 51 the total in this game. Revenge spot for the Rams. It was one of their worst losses earlier this year at home. Arizona rolls into SoFi and just hands it to the Rams, 37-20 in that game. Have the Rams turned it around? I don't know if a 37-7 win against Jacksonville, who are absolutely awful, especially on offense right now. I don't know if that's enough to prove that they're back on track, this Rams team, but at least it's a step in the right direction after some recent struggles. This is a really tough game for me. For Arizona, they're still trying to, maintain their spot with the number 1 seed. They're at home where Actually, believe it or not, they've not played as well at home as they have on the road. In fact, both losses came at home for Arizona. They're only 3-2 in this stadium. I guess I would lean to the Rams here, but lately, when you look at the Rams against good competition, it's concerning. Since they beat Tampa, and that was a good win, we don't take that away from them. That was a great win against the Bucs back in September. But since then, when they've played good teams, they've come up short. Arizona, the loss. Tennessee, the loss. San Francisco, the loss. Green Bay, the loss a couple weeks ago. They have not stepped up in class as well. So I like the revenge spot for the Rams. The Rams are certainly trying to, cement their playoff positioning as well, because they're now in a wild card spot and just trying to grab one of those. So I would lean Rams, but the thought of fading Arizona right now is just not appealing to me, because I've been Team Arizona from the beginning. I bet them to win the division, which they're almost assuredly going to do. I took them to win the conference. I took them to win the Super Bowl. It's definitely a team that I've been, singing their praises all year, thinking that this team could have a very good year. They have so far. Not in a rush to bet against them, but from a spot perspective, there are things to like for the Rams here. Cooper Kupp, keep an eye on his status. Toe injury, questionable for this game. And you know how immense he is to this passing game for Matthew Stafford. Without Cooper Kupp on the field, that would be a massive and impact absence if he doesn't play in this game for the LA Rams. So make sure you monitor that closer to Monday night's game. But interesting game here between these two teams. Total's very high. I would lean over, but it's 51 in this game. I would still lean there. Remember, the last meeting was 37-20. I think the Rams will do better offensively here in this game against Arizona's defense, which, again, this time around, there's a few more injuries on defense for Arizona than in the first meeting. So I think the Rams offense will play better. Lean to the over, lean to the Rams on Monday Night Football. All right, let's wrap up the show with the 108th edition of the CFL Grey Cup, taking place in my backyard Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern, ESPN2. If you want to watch this game, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Hamilton Tiger Cats. Winnipeg 3-point favorites, 44 the total in this game. Now, you already know I'm betting Hamilton. I'm a Ticat fan. I'm a Ticat season ticket holder. They're in the Grey Cup that they're hosting. How am I not going to bet on Hamilton here? How am I not going to do that? So I'm on Hamilton here. But let me at least give you the reasons why Hamilton's got a chance in this game against Winnipeg. Winnipeg's been the class of the CFL all season long, no question. There's a reason they're favored in this game. They've been outstanding on both sides of the ball. Zach Collaros at the quarterback. They now have a healthy Andrew Harris at running back. And believe me, that worries me. He is a beast running the football. And we saw it last week against Saskatchewan. You hit this guy, you can't bring him down. He's a physical, tough runner. You usually need more than one defender to bring him down to the turf. He's someone that when you hit him, he bounces forward and actually often picks up like 3 or 4 extra yards on a lot of carries. I mean, he's just a matchup nightmare for any opposing defense. And they've got a great offensive line, Winnipeg. Stanley Bryant on the left tackle spot. Jamarcus Hardrick on the right tackle spot for the Bombers' offensive line. Probably the best O-line in the CFL. Will our defensive line be able to get pressure, stop the run against a very strong O-line for Winnipeg? And I've got concerns on the other side of the ball a little bit in the trenches too. For our offensive line, which has given up 40 sacks this year. Can they protect Dane Evans? Can they give Don Jackson time to run the football in this game? Having to deal with Willie Jefferson and Jackson Jeffcoat, the bookends, as I like to call it. 2 outstanding edge pass rushers at the defensive end positions for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They are just beyond good, these 2 guys, and how they are just able to wreak havoc along the line of scrimmage. That's my greatest concern probably in this game, is our ability to match up in the trenches, where Winnipeg has been so strong throughout the course of the season. It's going to be a major challenge for Hamilton, no question about that. But what I like this time around is, look, 2 years ago, Winnipeg and Hamilton played in the Grey Cup. Hamilton that year was the huge favorite. We were laying big points in that game. We were expected to win. Everybody was thinking, hey, Hamilton's going to beat Winnipeg, finish off this outstanding season. And Winnipeg just flat out beat us and flat out were the better team that day. But now it kind of feels like the roles are reversed. Everybody's singing Winnipeg's praises. They've been the best team in the league all year. Now they're favored in this game. And now not as many people giving Hamilton a chance here. And I think, just that element means Maybe this is Hamilton's turn to rise up as the underdog here, just like Winnipeg did 2 years ago when they beat Hamilton for the Grey Cup. So the roles are reversed a little bit. It's certainly going to help the Ticats that they're going to have me and almost 30,000, mostly Ticat fans, cheering them on, making noise whenever the Blue Bombers have the football on offense. That certainly, you can't lose sight of that. I think it's going to be a tight game, a close game. I'm hoping we pull it out. I'm not going to say for sure we will because I respect Winnipeg too much. They've had a great season. They've been the defending Grey Cup champs, and they beat us to get the Grey Cup 2 years ago. We've got to prove we can, and we got to play mistake-free football. And unlike last week against Toronto, we can't expect to have a sleepwalk, bad first half, especially on offense, and expect to win. You got to play strong from the very beginning. You cannot give Winnipeg a big lead because the ability to come back against Winnipeg compared to the ability for the Ticats last week in the East Final to come back against Toronto, it's a night and day difference. You don't want to spot the Blue Bombers a double-digit lead at halftime like the Ticats did last week against the Argos. So you got to be strong and you got to be sharp right from the opening kickoff if you're the Ticats. But that being said, great game. Hopefully we pull it out. I think the crowd will help them out. Again, find these receivers if you're Dane Evans. What I like about Dane Evans when he replaced Jeremiah Masoli last week is, and that's the key against Winnipeg, he was mobile. He got out of the pocket. He threw, he stepped up in the pocket and threw and kept his eyes downfield. Those are the kind of plays that can beat Winnipeg's terrific defense. If you're a statue quarterback, you're going to struggle against the pass rush. But if you can evade the pocket, step up, make throws on the run, which Dane Evans is very good at, I think there's a chance he can make some plays happen against Winnipeg's defense. Let's not forget, too, first game of the year, when Winnipeg beat Hamilton, they played in the regular season, week 1, Grey Cup rematch. Winnipeg won. It was Masoli in at quarterback in that game. So they didn't really see much of Dane Evans. Dane Evans throws something totally different at Winnipeg. I think a little bit better in terms of throwing on the run. I think Evans is better at that than Masoli. I think that's going to be a little element that might be able to be beneficial for the Ticats against this Bombers defense. So again, I'm going to take Hamilton +3, hope for the best. It's not going to be easy. Respect the hell out of the Bombers and how good they've been all year. Again, they beat us 2 years ago for the Grey Cup, but I think we've got more than a puncher's chance to get them back, get some payback, and win the Grey Cup on home soil on Sunday. As far as the total goes, I like to usually bet Grey Cup games over, but there's reports there's going to be a little bit of wind in the forecast on Sunday. It's going to be dry, sunshine, temperatures aren't going to be that bad. It's going to actually be a pleasant December day, which is you don't always get in these parts, but there could be a little bit of wind, and I'm always worried about an over when there's wind in the forecast. I would lean to the over. I like to bet Grey Cup games over the total. Usually there's a few more points in them, and the total is only 44 in this game, but right now it's just a lean. We'll see what the wind is closer to kickoff. And last of all, some Grey Cup props. There's two that stand out to me in this game in terms of props. The first one being Dane Evans over 15.5 rushing yards. I think it's a great prop. I think it's a terrific prop. He had 14 against the Argos last week, rushing yards, Dane Evans at the quarterback spot. And he only came into the game, remember, late in the first quarter. You look at Cody Fajardo last week for Saskatchewan in the West Final against Winnipeg. He ran for over 20 yards. The quarterback has got to be mobile. The quarterback's got to be willing to run the football. This defensive line for Winnipeg is too good. You've got to be willing to break loose, get out of the pocket, scramble for a few yards whenever you can. And Dane Evans is the kind of quarterback that's willing to do that. You look at on the year, he's had over 100 rushing yards for the Ticats. So I think that prop makes sense to me. Given the strength of that Winnipeg defensive line, Dane Evans over 15.5 rushing yards in that game. I think from a receiver standpoint for the Hamilton Ticats, Jalen Ackland's the one you got to go with here, over 50. Let me see what his receiving prop is. I believe it's 55.5 receiving yards. Yes, Jalen Ackland has been one of Dane Evans' favorite targets. He was looking for him a lot last week in the game against Toronto. He had, I believe, over 100 receiving yards last week. Jalen Ackland against the Argos. He's got some great chemistry with Dane Evans in the passing game. So Jalen Ackland, over 55.5 receiving yards for the Ticats. I like that one quite a bit. Couple defensive props for Hamilton as well. I think their secondary is going to have to make a lot of tackles in this game for the Ticats, because Andrew Harris is good at breaking into the second level on a lot of his runs. So it's going to mean that, the secondary positions are going to have to be active. And I think you're going to see that here in this game. And I look at Tunde Adeleke for Hamilton and Keontae Evans. These are two guys that have been racking up the tackles lately for this Hamilton team, especially here in the playoffs from their secondary position. You look at the defensive tackle props. Adeleke is only 3.5. I like the over there. Keontae Evans has also got his defensive tackles prop at 3.5. I like the over in that one as well. I think you're going to see those guys be quite active. As far as Winnipeg goes, look, Andrew Harris, they ran the football a lot with him. You're not getting a bargain, 98.5 rushing yards for Andrew Harris with his prop in this game. Hamilton's defense was very good against the run. That's going to be put to the test here because I don't think they've seen too many run games or too many running backs quite like Andrew Harris. That's going to be put to the test here for the Ticats run defense here in this game against Winnipeg. So keep your eye on that as well. One thing you may also want to look at for the Bombers here in terms of receivers, Kenny Lawler's had an outstanding year. He's probably one of the players I'd target in terms of receiving props for Winnipeg. There is a prop, too, at a few books that has Sean McGuire over 4.5 rushing yards. And Sean McGuire, who is the backup quarterback to Collaros, he's the short yardage quarterback for Winnipeg. Every time they need 3rd and 1 or 3rd and inches, he comes into the game and he picks it up usually for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Now, he needs 5 rushing yards to cash his prop. So the way I see it, if they're in short yardage situations 5 times, 6 times in this game, Winnipeg, he's going to get over 4.5 rushing yards, Sean McGuire. So that is definitely something you look at maybe in a game like this, where maybe Sean McGuire, the backup quarterback, can exceed that over 4.5 rushing yards prop in this game for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Again, you're going to see him every single time the Bombers have 3rd and short here in this Grey Cup game. Like I said, in terms of receiving, I would definitely look at Kenny Lawler. I would also look at Dembski. He had a big game last week against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Those are the two definitely to keep an eye on here in this game. Even Rasheed Bailey here for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You look at his numbers last week. He had 56 receiving yards in that game, and he is currently only lined at 45.5. So Rasheed Bailey for over 45.5. I think I like that one a little bit, considering the production he had against the Roughriders last week. And Nick Dembski, his prop is, I think, a little bit less than Lawler, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there's no real bargain on Lawler, 58.5. If I'm going to bet some Bombers receiving props, I would look more toward Nick Dembski at over 45.5 and Rasheed Bailey over 45.5, because we did see Collaros really target those two guys quite a bit last week in the West Final victory against Saskatchewan. All right, there you go. There's the CFL Grey Cup, some props that I'm looking at in the big game there on Sunday. And also we looked at the entire NFL Week 14 card. Thanks again to everybody for watching another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out if you haven't done so already. I appreciate it. And again, we will be back to our normal day and time next Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific for Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. All right, we'll have a CFL Grey Cup best bet, and we will have a NFL best bet to wrap up the show right after this. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke. Southtown 101. Manscaped promo code PubSports, 20% off your purchase, Lawnmower 4.0, or any Manscaped product using promo code PubSports. And mybookie.ag, promo code PubSports. NFL, college football, NHL, NBA, college basketball. It's all going on right now. No better time than now to sign up for an account at mybookie.ag. Bitcoin accepted currency for your deposit as well. Mybookie.ag, promo code PubSports. All right, NFL best bet for week 14. Let's do the Bills and the Buccaneers over the total. I like this one quite a bit. Bills have played some bad offenses, some injury-riddled offenses. That's not going to be the case now for their defense against Tampa Bay. They played a bad weather game against New England. And again, that depressed all the points and the scoring in those games. I think now we get back to a bit of a shootout here. The Bills have played overs against the better teams on their schedule all season long. And I think you see more of the same here. I think the Bucs and Tom Brady and the Bucs are going to do what they've done in recent weeks, and that's move the ball and put up points. But I think Josh Allen in the passing game, I think they're going to get going here a little bit against still a banged up Tampa Bay secondary and still a suspect Tampa Bay defense with some of the injuries they're dealing with. So for me, Buffalo, Tampa Bay over 53. That is going to be my best bet for the NFL for week 14 for Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. And my CFL best bet, it's not going to be Hamilton. I'm on Hamilton +3, but it's not going to be the best bet. I'm going to go with a prop for best bet instead. And it's going to be the first prop that I mentioned. Dane Evans over 15.5 rushing yards. He's going to have to run the football a little bit in this game. Defensive front is too good for Winnipeg. They're going to flush him out of the pocket. He's going to have to make plays on the ground. He's capable of doing that. He had 14 rushing yards, and he didn't even play the full game last week against Toronto. He's going up against a Winnipeg defense. Their defensive line, I think, is going to have to force him to run with the football a little bit more. And again, last week in the West Final, we saw Saskatchewan quarterback Cody Fajardo run for 21 yards in that game. Again, for the very same reason. He had to avoid that extremely tough, ferocious defensive front of Winnipeg. And I think Dane Evans is going to have to do the same here in this game. So Dane Evans over 15.5 rushing yards. We'll go with a Grey Cup prop for my CFL best bet for this edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. All right, thanks to everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and I'll be back again next Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, for another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy right here on Pub Sports Radio.